Hello, and welcome back to Ministry of Flavour. God, it's been a while, hasn't it? So today, we're going to be making Parkin. Now, I understand that some of you are going to be looking at the screen with a blank look right now, but that's okay. I will explain. Parkin, for the uninitiated, is kind of gingerbread cake made with oats, dark treacle, and comes from the Yorkshire region. Rather like me. It's particularly, well, it's served around this time of year, which is why I've made the recipe, often around Guy Fawkes night or bonfire night, which is November 5th here in the UK, seeing as it's topical and I hadn't done a recipe in far too long, frankly. Anyway, enough intro, let's get this recipe video on the road. So the first thing that we're going to do is take care of the liquid ingredients or the wet part of the recipe. So for that, we're going to melt our fat and liquids together. So welcome back to my grayscale kitchen, where you can see I've got some butter in a pan, which I'm going to melt over medium heat. Now I'm adding two other ingredients here, but I've mixed them together in a bowl to weigh them out. So that's golden syrup and dark treacle, which is also called molasses. Now I've weighed them out together here, but all ingredient amounts and info are over on the website as per usual. What you're aiming to do here is to melt and blend these together, but you don't want to bring them to a boil. So just have patience until the butter is melted and everything has come together. Might take a while, and there you go. Okay, so once you've gotten to this stage, just turn off the heat and leave it until it's needed later. Next, it's on to weighing out our dry ingredients. Here I'm adding some rolled oats. It's more traditional to use fine oatmeal here, but either will work. I think rolled oats give a more interesting texture, and you know me, I'm all about an interesting texture. Next on our dry ingredients, I'm adding an equivalent amount of wholemeal flour here. Then I'm adding some sugar. The one I'm using here is Demerara, I think. Yes, it's Demerara. And now it's on to the best bit, by which I mean the spice, of course. Parkin is a type of ginger cake, so we're going to need some ginger somewhere. My style is usually go hard or go home, so we're adding not one, not two, but three, yes that's right, 3 heaped teaspoons of ground ginger. Next I'm adding 1 teaspoon of allspice, not to be confused with some spice. Then I'm following that with 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract. No essence here, please, use the real deal. Grab a microplane, then grab your nutmeg. Yes, nutmeg. Accept no imitations, so you want to grate your nutmeg into the dry ingredients. See here, I didn't really measure it out, as you can see, but I guess this was about 1 teaspoon in total. And finally, as we're using just plain wholemeal flour, we're going to need some raising agent here of some kind. So here you can see me adding 1.5 teaspoons of bicarbonate of soda. That's our raising agent here. I know it looks like I'm adding a lot more spoons, but they're only 1/4 teaspoon measures. We are still working on finding the other measuring spoons. We're on the case, don't you worry. And there you go. So that's all the dry ingredients. It kind of looks like a mini mountain sculpture in a bowl with some snow on it, I guess. So now it's time to mix in our wet ingredients, which means retrieving the ingredients we melted in the pan earlier. Pour them in gently and then mix and combine everything. Take your time, make sure that everything is well incorporated. Thinking about it, it would probably been easy if I'd mixed the dry ingredients before adding the wet, but you know how I like to live dangerously, and I wouldn't have had the mountain sculpture in the bowl if I'd done that. So, swings and roundabouts. To help everything bind together, I'm adding 1 beaten egg, which I've mixed with some milk, and 1 final ingredient, which is optional, but does add a lot of flavour actually, a shot of whiskey. What you do with the rest of the bottle, I'll leave to your discretion. Then mix it all together, and now it's ready for the oven. So here I've got a square brownie tin, which I've greased and lined in my inimitable style, 12 for the camera in a suave fashion. And now we can add our mixture. Spread it out a bit, but you know, don't get neurotic about it. It's going to spread out naturally in the oven. You want to bake it at around 140 degrees C for anywhere between 1 hour and an hour and a half. Now, I know that sounds like a huge discrepancy, but it really does depend on the oven and how your ingredients are feeling on the day you make it. The best way to test to see if it's done is to gingerly press the centre. See the joke I made there? I'm so funny. You'll know when it's done if it springs back to the touch like that. So once it's done in the oven, it's important to let it cool in its tin before you try and do any slicing. I'd say for a minimum of 30 minutes just to let its structural integrity develop. And now it's on to the all-important slice shot. Now for some reason I thought, seeing as I had the camera and the tripod set up and the overhead lights is actually pretty decent in this part of my usually cave dark north-facing apartment, that I'd do the slice shot on the reverse of the brownie tin. Yeah, that's what happened a few times. Should have used a bigger surface, really. Ironically enough, this is a bonfire night recipe, and I can actually hear quite a few fireworks going off in the background, and I wonder if they're being picked up by the microphone. But anyway, eventually we'll be left with something which looks like this, and you can see me here setting up for the final shot, and the recipe picture I used over on the blog. Where would you be without your obligatory mug of tea? Let's all pretend that the camera tripod didn't just move when I stood on the floorboard near it. And there you have it, ginger Parkin, as eaten by people like me in the north of the UK. Especially around bonfire night, which is ironic given that there are fireworks going off in the background. Give it a try, especially if you like ginger or licorice flavours. The other half is Canadian and fell in love with it as soon as they tried it. Right, that's it. Okay, that's all for now, folks. See you in the next one.